I don't know how to. Okay.
Okay. We got a little hiccup there. Yeah, we're going back to
weird. Okay.
The heroes rescuing.
Yeah, so we see the heroes rescuing people in the actual, damaged areas and stuff like that. We got a list of all of the heroes that have unfortunately met their ends during this, cataclysmic event, with which the priority from a reader's perspective and the main cast is definitely the loss of Night Eye, with only the remnants of the mask left over. That's kind of a big deal just due to the fact that, she's been a UA teacher. So I think that's definitely kind of supposed to be the most impactful one. And then, honestly, kind of just jumping right to the end, what we see is this isn't really the end. All for one, but in the, I guess, like in the body of Shigaraki, still technically speaking, is going to use the near high-end Nomus to break himself out, which kind of, raises some interesting questions. So, with our brief summary out of the way, let's kind of bring it back to the beginning and start this argument where I'm just going to jump off and say the villains randomly got away. They just ran off into the sunset. That is random. And
we saw them get away before. Like, we saw the last chapter before where it's like Shigaraki needs. We saw the high-end Nomus. Remember, he called like 5 of them, and obviously every hero was like occupied with something else and trying to stop them. I mean, they're pretty tough too. I mean, like,
I guess that's like a running scene, and I know, but like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like, I don't know. It literally shows like 24 heroes running after them, and they all got away. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of
you have to remember too, man. Remember when Endeavor fought that just one that could fly, and he was having a hard time where he left a scar on his face. So like, you kind of have to imagine like if 5 or I can't look, I don't know, 6 or 7, whatever, booking it. I believe, they could like. They're just
I guess.
And I get it, like, and I get it, like, because I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty excited to see Washi Wash. Like, hell yeah, he's there. One of the best heroes. I don't know what he does.
Hey, nothing. He's a washing machine.
Well, all I know, he's a rescue hero.
Yeah. So he puts out some fires. He's probably like the aqua or bubble hero whose name I totally forget the name of right now. Man, Washi Wash don't do shit.
He's the top. He's one of the top 5, isn't he? Or like top 10 at least?
No, I know maybe top 20. Maybe top 20.
No, he's up there.
Bro, there's no way. No way. I'm tabbing right now. Washi Wash, top 10 hero, MHA. There's no way.
I'm putting money he's like top 8. Like,
no way. Okay, Wash. Just shut up. Just shut up. I'm reading here. Okay. Wash, biographical information, pro hero, anime debut, appearance, gallery. Okay, he was present. Oh, wow. I just got bodied. Okay, he's top 8. He's 8th.
See, I was right.
Out of here. If this guy's your top 8, get out of here, man.
Exactly. And well,
okay, hold on. I still claim he's kind of useless.
Well, we haven't seen him fight. He's a rescue hero.
To create and control soapy water from his head. The stream is apparently strong enough to keep several people in the air. He can also use his quirk to generate large soap bubbles that he uses to envelop targets and make them float.
Nice. That's pretty cool. But I do like the panel where we see a glimpse of 13. So that was pretty cool with like her helmet cracked. She's one of those teachers. And
I was thrown off by that, to be honest. I didn't even like realize who that was initially. Like, I knew it was Wash. I knew the top chick was one of the cat people from the camp. His name escaped me right then. Then we got Mike over here, without his glasses.
Who I still think is, I personally think is the
mole.
Yeah.
Really?
I think he's the mole.
Interesting. Okay, well, we can come back to that. That's kind of that's a I don't know about that, but that's kind of anyway. So, then we see these Nomus. There's not really a lot going on there. It's ironic to me that Makia, considering he was like so pivotal and then being able to escape, that he gets left behind.
Mr. Compress.
Yeah, well, I mean, we knew that was going to happen. This guy fucking
he destroyed
blew his own body off, for Christ's sake.
Redestro defeated by that ninja dude who could like pretty much fold his body into like thin nothing, if I remember correctly. That's his name.
Yep. Or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember his name. Yeah, but like pretty cool. Yeah, Destro. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I've kind of found the Liberation Army to be kind of crap, for lack of a better term. And I guess what I mean by that is when we had the whole, in quotations, My Villain Academia arc going down, right? When they were, fighting the war against them and that kind of stuff, they were
Yeah.
supposed to be like this huge thing, right? They were kind of supposed to be almost this OG League of Villains to an extent, right? That were waiting for like All for One to return and like pledge allegiance and all this kind of thing. So they're supposed to be this force to be
Well,
reckoned with.
I
And
think
then
I took the Liberation Army more like F people that doesn't have quirks and stuff like that. We should be the top dog and everything. So
my point still
kind of took
being that they're supposed to be like a force to be reckoned with. And
yeah.
then not only did they get beat by the League of Villains, who were basically less than half of their numbers, then they
Way
kind of just get written off here in the fight against everybody else as well, right? Like in my
yeah.
opinion, like, well, we've already talked about this, but if I was to have a quirk, we've already established it would be Destro's quirk
Yeah.
because of my personality. And that's an OP quirk, man. Stress, that quirk is sick. And yet he gets
Yeah.
bodied by like everybody. So I'm kind of disappointed, I guess, is what I'm saying in terms of the way the army was framed, the way they were kind of supposed to come into the series and make like an impactful change, I felt, in terms of, giving the League of Villains this kind of upper hand. And, don't get me wrong, they were obviously very
It gave them numbers.
well, I know it, but like, how good did that number do? What is the total number of people that got arrested? Something like 16,000. It's something
Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous.
because we know for sure the Liberation Army had numbers compared to the heroes. Because I think it was only like what 200 heroes or something like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it
you got
wasn't a lot. And then obviously with the
16,000
League of
people
Villains,
got arrested. Like,
and like the League of Villains is like 6 guys.
yeah, but that's my point. So you had an army of 16,000 and like just gone. Again, all of the for kind of all of the pump up and the whole turning point that arc created for the villains, I expected more coming from these characters and this association, if you will, and I've been kind of disappointed with the results, especially as now they're basically done.
Yeah, I think we'll see them again, or at least later on, because like they might be going to the same facility where All for One is,
Very possible. That's a good point.
or at least the very like noteworthy ones, right?
Hmm.
So that's for sure.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
I do understand, but like I think they're. I mean, we'll probably see some of them again for sure. I would like to later down the line again with the League of Villains because some of these guys were pretty Destruct Redestro and like the other ice guy I forget
Getting.
yeah, whatever his name is. And he got beaten. Looks like he got beaten by the cement dude, as you can see in the background.
Oh yeah, because cement's like lying down. Yeah, makes sense.
So that was kind of like, okay, there must have been a fight that obviously we couldn't like see, and hopefully we actually see it animated because they kind of like expand on that stuff in the animation and sometimes. So,
Hmm.
but I get what you're saying because like number wise, it should have been larger. But then again, if they got beat by the League of Villains, why wouldn't they get beat by heroes too? So,
I guess no, that's a fair point.
and this is what I want to bring up. Sorry, this is the main point before I forget. It was a surprise attack by the heroes, if you remember. So I don't think they were like fully ready compared to like when they attack. I remember when they attacked the League of Villains. They went on the front end, and then but this one they were kind of like on the back end when the heroes like came out.
yeah, on
They
the
were
front
trying to stop Shigaraki.
versus the back foot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the only excuse I get. But I get what you're saying, though. I could definitely see where you're coming from. But going on, continuing on, with all like they contain all those like 16,000 people, and actually like I do like you Gravy and Floppy just rescuing people.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the amount of screen time that they got in this chapter, admittedly, because considering we just had the climax, I wasn't expecting such like a jump back, I guess, to Uravity and Froppy.
Yeah.
But like, I get it. They're
And
kind of
we
the only
definitely had
two
to see
still in
this.
action.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's not even like Froppy. It's really more on you know Urahara and like her
Yeah.
whole development. It's interesting because she's kind of having, I guess, like that All Might slash Deku moment that we're first introduced to at the very beginning of the series, where All Might kind of walks out and he's like, ah ha ha ha, right, and he's like saving them all, and people are like, he saved like 45 already. Like she's kind of having that moment, but it's the opposite in a weird way because she saves this family and there's these two people like hugging each other in the middle of this horrible
Yeah,
situation.
that was
You can
that
see
was
the
yeah,
wife's leg is like mangled or something, and
but he
she
still
may,
rescued.
yeah, but she'll never walk again. And then the other side, maybe, and then the other side of the coin is you know All Might instilled this hope and brought this peacefulness with him, right? He that's the whole idea. But here we're seeing the opposite side of that, where we get this hero who is like, this is too much. I need to find a new line of
Yeah,
work.
that was
And
pretty
we're
powerful, man. Because he was, like, isolated, in that panel and, like, even the panel before where it's, like, the spread where he's just looking at, like, the chaos, the destruction, and it just again, you see him again, and we just see his backside, and he's like, "I'm done with this." Uh,
Well, it's also crazy, right? Because I think if you read all of the like the bubbles, the speech bubbles in that, like you have a child crying for their parent, another one's like crying out for their child, people telling each other to watch out, everything's crushed, there's fire, there's smoke, like, this is hell for sure. Like, and I get that that's where the title of the chapter comes in. And you even see or your Ravity, she's standing there and she's kind of shocked. So I just found this very interesting because it's very starkly contrasting the beginning of the series, where heroes are always supposed to succeed like All Might and always supposed to come in and save the day, and yet, that's clearly not the case. And I think, despite the fact that there hasn't been too much, I guess, revealed in terms of the impacts that this is going to have, I think this has been a very good way to ground what's going on in terms of, there being realistic repercussions and like realistic changes to the society. And I think, to be honest, for me, that's kind of like the highlight of this chapter, is this guy breaking down and being like, I'm gonna quit being a hero. that's
yeah.
that's crazy because you could argue that the villains won, right? Because
Well, a
isn't
lot of
that what they
heroes
were aiming for?
I mean, you saying that, a lot of heroes just kicked the bucket, man. My dude Crust died, man. Crust,
My dude,
remember?
Crust. No, nobody knows Crust, but I
He's,
got
like,
your
top
point.
4, I think. You know that, right? You have to know your hero rankings, man. Get it together.
Bro, the
Yeah.
top 10 doesn't even mean anything.
Alright, you say so.
I
But
do
yeah,
say so.
but Midnight I was like, "Whoa." I was not ex and then all the heroes and this Daft Punk looking guy, but yeah, clearly, there's been, like, repercussions, like we said before, and also, skipping, going on ahead, you see, like, the outside world, so to speak, right? Like, you see the rest of the Japan, like, oh, how heroes think will handle this and that, so there's, like unease, so to speak, but then still people have hope, you know what I mean? So it's like a mixture of both. There's chatter everywhere, clearly. So I definitely want to see how you know, how I want to see more of society, what they'll think of this event, because like they just saw the end of it and they're like, go about their day, right? So
Mhm.
mhm.
Which is actually kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because at least the go about your day kind of thing, because yeah, it's kind of interesting how little this affected some people and how drastically like it would have affected others, right?
Yeah.
You see like the dialogue bubbles of people who are still just sitting on trains or like walking through the streets and stuff like that. And there's this like nonchalantness to it that's kind of, I think it speaks to kind of the greater.
It's also surreal, if we're being real. It's kind
Well,
of
yeah,
like
that's
we have
what I was
moments like
gonna
that in
say. It's a
Marvel life.
reflection of current society, right? Where we read everything through smartphones and streaming, and there's this detachment from it. Like, these people's reactions are very muted, I guess. If you look at like, oh, it's like, well, dang, it's all over, huh? That
Yeah.
Dobby thing totally sucked. Like, there's not like, oh, what can we do to help? Where can we go? What can we do? It's like, and then they're even complaining about Endeavor, and they're like, oh, isn't Endeavor's job to protect us and stuff like that? Like, what's going on? And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, you know, it's so easy to judge and make these types of comments when you're not the ones in it. And like again, it's just a real stark commentary on the real world because that's
Yeah.
exactly the type of crap that goes on in everyday life. So that for me also is like, damn, okay, we're getting a little deep here.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then we obviously like Endeavor and like Deku just kind of like done. But I guess going on to like we mentioned before in the quick read over, looks like this guy's gonna escape from prison with the High Unknown who's taking over Shigaraki's body. Which I guess Deku was right because Shigaraki seems to quote unquote needs help from saving.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the confusing part as well. So I guess all for one's in both bodies at the same time because it's interesting to me that he's having those thoughts in the prison, but then
Yeah,
he speaks from
Shigaraki.
Shigaraki's body. So
Mhm.
that's interesting to me. I don't know, like if that's the subconscious all for one kind of speaking, if you know what I mean. Remember how
Yeah.
like similarly there's the heroes inside of Deku, same
Deku.
idea. But
Yeah,
like I don't know, like this was kind of weird for me. I'm like, is he in two places at once? Is
I get what
he
you're
like
saying
I don't
'cause
know.
it's like, where is he really? But like, and then why does
Mhm.
he need his real body? You know
Well,
what I mean?
that's
To
the
be
thing
free?
too, right? Is like, yeah, he's like, it's time to free my real body. So it's kind of like, well, what does that mean? And I guess it also kind of comes back to this idea that you know he's just been manipulating Shigaraki the entire time.
Oh,
And
for
that there
sure.
hasn't been an instance of like there was at one point where I thought there was this idea to establish, kind of
Shigaraki as
like
the next villain, as the next like big bad. But
yeah, and not only that, but to establish like a true kind of like, master student bond where they didn't have anything else but each other, but um in the last number of chapters as we've seen more and more of all for one's, I guess, dedication to himself and his desire to not just train somebody to be the next big bad, but rather to take over their body and their personality and their life and who they are. I've discarded that theory, to say the least.
hmm. Yeah, I could agree. Yeah, and even Shigaraki's body's all mangled up, so I don't know. I don't know. Also, is the Nomu's like a piece of All for One?
Yeah, like I guess technically, because I think he forces multiple quirks into their bodies,
I mean,
right?
he's
So
literally changing people. I know that for sure. We know that for sure because these are like
the actual
people.
people, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like there's still some questions that I guess haven't entirely been answered. I'm guessing that's what's gonna kind of go forward as we figure out this whole real body situation. Um to be honest, I think I'm kind of questioning everything a little bit more now than I was. I was kind of expecting a more closed-ended chapter, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to be like, okay, Shigaraki's like just recovering, but instead it's already like, oh, the heroes haven't even recovered, and we're setting up for the next stages. So that was surprising, enjoyable, but it's kind of like, oh crap, now what kind of thing.
Mm, I get you. I get you. Other than that, I really don't have no thoughts. I think this chapter, was pretty significant, and I liked it. It was like the end point, and we're gonna move on to the next event, so to speak, or like the next arc, because this arc is basically done.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's yeah, like this chapter was very fulfilling, I guess, in terms of an emotional and like behind the scenes kind of side of it. But there wasn't, I guess, a whole lot of true progression, if you know what I mean. It's again, it's this whole setting up of the change in society, the the change in our perceptions of Shigaraki and stuff like that. So I think from a general did a lot happen perspective, no, but what happened was super super impactful, so I think that's really interesting. But before, the only thing I want to kind of go back to is why do you think Mike is the mole? Like, so I guess if you've read Vigilantes or if you haven't read Vigilantes, we find out that when Eraser and Mike were kids in high school, they had this friend. This friend ended up being captured clearly, and they thought he was dead, but it turns out he actually became the teleporting guy for the League of Villains. And That's kind of interesting to me. Like, why? Like, is it because of that relationship that you think like maybe somebody in the League of Villains, like the Doctor or All for One, was promising Mike to return him to normal if he like fed them information on the heroes? Like, is that where your thoughts are at?
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna cut this part. So. Okay. I think the reason I think he's the most like he's seen. I don't know. Yeah, if you haven't seen the side stuff with my hero vigilante, or I guess my vigilante, I forgot what it's called. Because he was he was friends with Eraserhead and the other person that became the teleporting villain, so to speak, right?
Mm.
So I don't know, like why else would they be in a friend group, right? I mean, they show him in a friend group, and I feel like okay, he's in the friend group of like and he grew up with and everything, so. And he's seen what happened to his friend because I think he was in there the same day when his the I guess Son Goku-ish guy died. Maybe he was like horrified. You know what I mean? Like who else would kind of like go and like okay, there's a body there. Maybe you could save him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's why I was kind of asking. So, did you think that I guess Mike was offered a deal?
I think
And
so.
it's like if if you feed us information from UA and the school and stuff like that, like we'll return
Yeah,
your friend to normal. But didn't that go right out the window when they captured him? So
probably. Yeah, but also, I mean, just from like a uh visual standpoint, if you want to call it, would go with Preston Mike. He's loud, right? So like, why wouldn't he be the one to spill the beans? Like, yeah, it would be
I
kind of
guess
like
it's kind of, he's
it's
the
like
loudest character is secretly the most silent character or the sneakiest
yeah,
character. I guess
yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
So
It's,
it
it's
just from like a visual standpoint, it'd be like okay, kind of like a oxymoron, right?
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure. I think what's really funny for me, man, is I like the principal, but a part of me has
he's
also
still
never
sus.
trusted the principal. He
Yeah,
is sus, man.
I can
He's a
definitely
fucking like
understand.
gerbil running a hero school with a random scar. Like he's super like crazy
Hey,
suspect,
with
man.
his cool sneakers, yeah, I know what you're saying. Because his quirk is essentially he's just a smart gerbil, right, or a rat.
Yeah, he's just like a
Yeah, he's
super
just really
smart
smart.
rodent. That's like my
Yeah,
understanding. It's like Sherlock Holmes in a
which
hamster form.
which
Like
makes you wonder, like other like rodents of like or other like animals. I mean, we've seen a cat cop, right? We've seen like a dog cop.
we did. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But like I don't know if I don't want to think it's the principal because I like the principal's um I guess like kind of demeanor and his character, but yeah, he's been super. So that might be my guess. And actually, you know what, man? The one thing I think we before we wrap it up quickly is just how do you think about the loss of Night Eye? We didn't really kind of touch on that too much. What are your thoughts on that? For me, I to be honest, I kind of don't care that much. To be honest with you, like I would have been way more rattled if Eraser had died. I think taking Night Eye is kind of like to an extent.
nah, I disagree. Night Eye. Oh wait, no, Night Eye. I think that kind of you needed that progress for like those here, like people who needed to die, so
I'm
to
not
speak.
arguing with that. I think in terms of I think it's kind of like it makes sense, but at the
But
same time, for me, it's not
I'm
as
sorry, you
impactful.
meant Midnight, right? Not Night Eye.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I did mean midnight. My bad. My
Yeah.
whole damn time. My bad. Sorry. It's that night that threw me off. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wasn't expecting that. Like I guess we kind of knew she was gonna die due to the way that it got set up, but at the same time, it's kind of like for me, I would if that was a racer's face, I would have been way more like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like I was sad about it, but at the same time, like I kind of saw it coming. This was definitely like a secondary teacher role in terms of the greater scheme of things.
Yeah. Well, we've seen her like in like other the exams and like classes and stuff like that. So honestly, it was pretty a big surprise for her to like, whoa, like she died and shit. Because her power is pretty interesting. Because you use her body pheromones, right? That's a pretty like interesting powers and stuff like that. So I mean, I get what you're saying because you probably wasn't too attached to it, except for Eraserhead. I mean, we know Eraserhead lost a leg, that's for sure. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, that like again, that just would have been crazy, crazy impactful for me. Like I'm honestly I'm way happier it was Racer. I have a lot more attachment to like him as a character and
Yeah, and
his kind of
I feel like
progress.
and honestly, if he were to die, I don't know if he should have died like in this arc. You know, if that were to happen, I would definitely would have not liked that, even from like a story standpoint. Because then, like, if the villains like win at the end too, I'm like, oh man, then what was the point? So
No, that's a fair counterpoint. I think for me, the reason that I would have also been more impacted by Sir dying, it would have been his quirk. I think they've kind of on occasions it's been like, man, Eraser's gonna save the day, right? Because he's just stupidly good, He
yeah,
turns off other people's quirks and essentially makes, he makes a badass villain into a nobody. Like that's crazy good. So I think losing him as, kind of the trump card or the ace up their sleeves of the hero society, I think that just maybe would have had a little bit more impactful. Especially again, it would have also impacted like all of the students even more so. I think again it still does impact the students, but I just think this sounds weird to put it in a sentence in this way, but there was more to lose and they kind of didn't maybe lose as much as they could have. So although it's very dramatic, it still could have been way worse. They could have lost somebody whose loss would have been more impactful in my opinion.
yeah. No, I get you. Other than that, I don't really have no other thoughts. I really enjoyed the chapter. I probably enjoy every chapter really, but like this was like I said before and a few minutes ago, good endpoint for the next event for the next
For
arc. So
sure,
to
the
speak.
next arcs.
You
Yeah.
know how is society gonna really react? How's the teachers? Not even the teachers, but like the parents. You know, we get to see that. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the next
You
couple
forget
chapters
these are
are going to be
not
reading
really
with that.
forget, but like I think this is one of the few mangas where like the parents are there, right? You know, like I don't want my son to go to UA. You guys are crazy, but but like this is the hero life, right? So yeah,
I didn't choose the hero life. The hero life
hero
chose
life
me.
goes, man. But
Sorry,
yeah,
corny, but I kind of had to do it. All right, let's switch it up, man. What are we going to? Uh, we looking at Jujutsu. You want to go Kaiju?
Jujutsu. I gotta do
You
the
want to go
intro.
Jujutsu? Jujutsu. Okay.
Wait, like 10 seconds to your intro. Ugh.